Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Hawa Ridhwani, and in today's video we're going to be discussing 10 saving tips that I have for my fellow spenders and shopaholics. Now these are tips that I'm going to be sharing that has worked really well for me and has helped me to save money in the past. I'm not going to be discussing complex things such as ETFs or mortgage payments because if you have transgressed into that level of being able to understand those things, then well done to you. You have progressed into the next level of adulthood that I haven't quite fully achieved. I will get there one day. But in today's video, I'm going to be discussing kind of saving tips that I have to kind of help you shop more mindfully and save purposefully. So tip number one is to find your saving purpose. Now I know I talk a lot about purpose and intention in my videos, but the reason for that is because I feel that before you embark on a new journey or a new task, it's really important that you nail down your motivation before you actually go do it. So for example, if you are saving up for an outcome or an item, so for example, if you're saving up for a new laptop or a new phone, that may work in the short term because you are saving up for an outcome, but then what happens after that? What kind of habits and systems are you putting in place to kind of help you save sustainably and in the long term? The way that I kind of think about this is that you need to find a deeper purpose for why it is that you're saving and how that kind of ties in with the values that you have as a person. So for example, I tend to tie my financial identity to my independence. Now, I've been very blessed that my father, bless him, hi dad, he's probably watching this video right now, he has invested into my education that has helped me to get my master's degree, which has allowed me to get a good paying, a decent paying job. And since I've gotten that job, I have been very happy to note that I haven't had to ask my parents for money. The only money that I ever get from my parents now is when my birthday comes up. But aside from that, when it comes to financial responsibilities like rent and utilities, I've been quite blessed that I haven't had to ask my parents for money. So in that sense, I tend to tie my financial identity to my independence because I like being self-sufficient. I like not having to rely on my parents so much because I know that they've got financial responsibilities of their own. And I tend to tie financial independence with security. So I always have an emergency fund in place that will allow me to kind of tide over if I have any medical bills or if I suddenly, for some reason, lose my job. I do have a cushion of money to kind of keep me safe if anything were to happen. So maybe that's a little bit of me being always a little bit anxious, but I know that I value security and safety and financial independence, and that just ties into who I am as a person. So what I'm recommending is that you find your saving purpose and how that ties in with who you are as a person and what values you keep, and let that be your motivation for your saving journey. Now, the second tip that I have is a tip that I actually learned from my father, and that is to always save first and spend after. Now, this is actually advice that my dad gave to me a long time ago that he always used to say to me, I don't care what you do with 90% of your paycheck as long as you're saving 10% first. And that's always been a rule that I've always lived by, that every single time that I get my paycheck on a fortnightly basis, I would take out 10%, and I have an automatic payment kind of set up that it removes 10% of my paycheck and immediately puts it into my emergency or savings fund. And I've set that up for a long time ago and it's worked really well. Depending on the financial responsibilities that I have at the time, the percentage that I put in for my savings has fluctuated somewhere between 10 to 40%. So it just really depends on what I've got going on in my life at the time. Obviously, this percentage will vary from person to person. I think 10% is actually a reasonable amount, but obviously I don't have kids or any mortgage payments to actually worry about. So pick a percentage that works for you. And then depending on, what kind of responsibilities that you've got going on, you can adjust your percentage to kind of suit your lifestyle and your needs. Tip number 3 is to give yourself a spending allowance. Now, this seems counterintuitive to the last tip that I just gave, but I promise you it's not. I view my relationship with money the way that I view my relationship with food. If you restrict yourself too much, if you put yourself on a diet, you end up binging that chocolate cake when you're meant to get a slice and then suddenly the whole cake is gone. I kind of view restricting myself with money in that same form. Maybe that says a little bit about my impulse control, but you know, I'm trying to get a hold of that. If you want to save sustainably, you need to give yourself a spending allowance that will help you live within your means. So for me, a general rule that I tend to have is that my spending allowance per paycheck is about 10%. A lot of the time I actually spend that kind of money into self-development, books, and kind of activities that I've got going on. A rule that I live by is 10%. And if I do want to get something that is higher than that, then I actually put that in a spending account and I slowly save up paycheck per paycheck until I reach that amount to buy whatever it is that I actually want. So tip number 4 is to split your money into different pots. Now, compartmentalising just happens to be my way of living, and it's how I tend to manage my life and my finances. So I actually have 4 bank accounts in Australia. I've got one that holds my kind of emergency / saving funds. I've got one that tends to be where I put my spending allowance money. And then I've got 2 that I use to kind of manage my everyday spending accounts. So the way that I kind of use those 2 accounts is when I get my paycheck, however much money that I need to pay off my rent, utilities, groceries, bills, that kind of thing goes into one of those accounts. And then on a weekly basis, I'll start transferring money into my main spending account that I use on an everyday basis. So seems a little bit excessive, but I just happen to know that this system works for me. It really helps me to manage my finances because I have to be really mindful of my spending, and I have to track, you know, if I'm having to transfer money from one of my spending accounts to the other ones, I'm overspending, and it helps me to kind of assess where it is that I'm actually putting my money towards. So yeah, if it helps you and if you're able to, I would suggest that you open up different bank accounts that help you to actually track your money and help you kind of compartmentalize your finances. So yeah, that's my tip number 4. Tip number 5 is to watch out for lifestyle inflation. Now, as you start working and as your salary increases every year, we happen to go through what is kind of known as lifestyle inflation. So for example, my daily moisturizer when I was at uni costed me somewhere between $9 to $12, but then when I got my first paying job and I started to invest more into skincare, my daily moisturizer now cost me somewhere between $30 to $40. So that's kind of an example of lifestyle inflation. So you got to be mindful that lifestyle creep or lifestyle inflation is actually a thing. And you need to assess what it is that you have kind of invested into or put your money towards, and assess what's actually necessary in your life, and what is it that you can actually learn to let go of, and kind of eliminate or reduce what's not necessary in your life, and really keep in your life what's actually important and necessary for you. So tip number 6 is to unsubscribe, specifically from marketing emails from stores, but also subscription services that you're not using anymore. So I have this tendency of when I'm shopping online or shopping in a new store, I tend to open up an account with them. And I can't tell you how many marketing emails I used to get on a daily basis. At one point, I was actually getting 40 emails from different stores across Australia, but also international stores as well. And the bad thing about that is that these marketing emails with their titles and the way that they put things for you, and they tend to target your preferences based on what you've previously bought, is that they are designed to literally tempt you to buy things that you don't actually need. So in that sense, I would say that if there are stores that you only shop at sometimes, like once or maybe twice a year, maybe reassess whether or not you actually need to keep an account. Either let go of that account or unsubscribe from their marketing emails. Another good thing to do is to kind of go through your automatic payments. So look at your PayPal account or your bank account and assess what you can actually unsubscribe and let go of. So tip number 7 is to try a low buy. Now, this is specifically for people who are trying to save short term for, again, like an outcome or a item that you're trying to purchase. So I've done a low buy kind of twice in the last like 4 years. The first time I did it was because I was saving up to get a MacBook Air, which was a treat to myself for completing my master's and getting my first job kind of before I even graduated. So I actually did a few things, for example, such as making sure that for 3 months, I only bought groceries. I only replaced necessities. So for example, skincare or makeup items that I was using every single day. I had a very short curated list of things that I allowed myself to buy, and I never deviated from that list. So I did that for 3 months and saved up $2,000 to purchase the laptop that I currently have. And then afterwards, I did another low buy a few months after that because I was saving up for a trip to Malawi to go to my friend's wedding. And again, I implemented those same principles and managed to save $3,000, which funded me for that whole trip, which I was so proud of. It was amazing. I was so happy that I got to go on that trip. And it was one of those things where it was such a big trip to Africa, which I never thought I would be able to get the chance to go to. And I managed to do that on my own money, which was fantastic. And that's how I did it, was I did this low buy. So if you are saving for something in the short term, I would say try doing this to kind of jumpstart your savings to kind of get this item or this experience that you're trying to save up for. But I would say that doing a low buy, especially if you're just starting to kind of reassess your spending or your saving habits, I would say maybe do a low buy for a certain amount of time, but also put in some kind of sustainable saving habits to make sure that you're not restricting yourself and then you end up going on a shopping spree. So tip number 8 is to start micro investing. So personally, I actually really enjoy using the app RAIZ. So the way that I kind of explain it when I got Alex to get into RAIZ was, if you purchase a coffee, for example, for $4.50, it rounds up your purchase to $5, and it takes the 50 cents, puts in a little like pot, if you want to call it that, and when that pot reaches $5, it then invests it into an investment portfolio of your choosing. Now there are different like risk profiles that you can choose from conservative all the way to aggressive. I personally chose the Emerald portfolio that they have on RAIZ because it basically chooses a collection of companies that have more sustainable and ethical practices, and it's really easy. Like, I set up automatic payments to pay that account on a fortnightly basis, and I actually don't even think about it anymore. So I actually checked my RAIZ account today to see what the percentage is of how much money I've made in the last, I want to say I've had this app for about 8 months now. And so far I've managed to make back 5% of what I've invested into that app. And the reason why I got into investing in the first place is because inflation tends to average out to be 1 to 2% per year. And if your savings account that you've got with, any of the major banks don't give you 2% of a savings rate per annum, you're actually losing money by putting your money into a savings account with a bank. I will leave a link down below for information for you. This app is available in Australia and in Malaysia as well. I will also leave down below a referral code if you decide to download the RAIZ app. And if you do use that referral code, you and I will both get $5. If you wanted to get into a micro investing app, I highly recommend RAIZ. Tip number 9 is one that I actually learned from my mother, and that is to always get a second stream of income. Now, as far as I've always known my mom, she always had at least 2 jobs at once. I don't know what it is. I think part of her, sorry mom, I do love you, but I do think she's a bit of a workaholic. But in saying that, she does hustle and always makes sure that she has multiple streams of income, which I can appreciate in a 21st century working woman and mother. Another thing that I love about my mother is that her second stream of income, she tends to put towards her self-development and her education, which lets her to kind of further her passions and her career in the direction that she wants to. That's kind of how I try to kind of live my life. At one point, I was actually juggling 3 jobs at once, which actually helped me to get my laptop and also save for my trip to Malawi. I would recommend that if you are able to try and get a second source of income, whether it be doing kind of odd jobs or kind of something that's on a part-time basis. We are in a bit of an unpredictable state at the moment with the world and the job market. So I would say that if you are able to kind of fit it in within your life and within your schedule and still maintain a good kind of mental health and well-being state, then I would say try and get a second source of income to kind of help your finances get along. Now, my last tip is actually more about your mentality with money and how you spend it rather than an actual like savings tip, and that is to choose experience over retail therapy. I can't tell you how many times over the years when I've been really stressed or just been really frustrated with life that I've had retail therapy to kind of help me feel better about myself and help me feel better about the circumstances of my life. And I'm here to tell you that Choosing experiences that will make you happy will far outweigh the benefits of getting materialistic items. Instead of spending time online shopping, maybe call up your friends and see if they want to do a Skype session or a Netflix party session together. I would say that I far prefer spending time with my friends and my loved ones than having materialistic items in my life. Fill your life with experiences and connection, not with materialistic items that will take up your space, your time, your energy, and your money that should be going towards your financial security and the life that you want to build for yourself. I hope that these 10 saving tips will help you out in some way. Comment down below if you have any saving tips that you'd like to share with me as to how you manage your finances and how you have kind of changed your spending habits with saving. I'm kind of thinking about doing these self-development videos on a fortnightly basis. So if you have any ideas or topics that you'd like me to cover next, be sure to comment down below or text me and follow me on Instagram, and you can text me your ideas. As always, if you liked my video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe for more content on sustainable and mindful living. If you found this video helpful, be sure to share it with your friends and your loved ones as well. As always, thank you so much for watching my video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.